The sound of shattering glass was louder than the thunder. In a split second, 80-year-old Martha saw her entire livelihood destroyed. "Oops! Looks like trash belongs with trash, Grandma. Now get off my sidewalk!" She lay in the mud, humiliated. Cold rain soaked through her thin coat as the group of thugs laughed at her tears. They thought they had won. They thought she was just a weak, forgotten old woman with no one to protect her. But they were wrong. Dead wrong. Because Martha wasn't calling the police. She was dialing a number that hadn't been used in 20 years. And the son she was calling wasn't a doctor or a lawyer. She was waking up a sleeping giant. And in 5 minutes, these bullies are going to wish they had never been born. If you hate bullies and believe that karma always finds a way, hit that subscribe button right now. You need to see exactly how this ends. To understand why the ground shook that day, we have to go back to the beginning. Her name was Martha. At 82 years old, she was a fixture on the corner of 5th and Main. Rain or shine, you would find her there, standing behind a wobbly card table covered in a checkered cloth. Her menu was simple: apple, cherry, and her famous meat pies. But Martha wasn't out there for fun. Every dollar she made went into a small, rusted tin can labeled medicine. Since her husband passed away 3 years ago, her Social Security checks barely covered rent, let alone the heart medication that kept her alive. But Martha never complained. Not once. She had a smile that could warm the coldest winter morning. "Here you go, sweetie," she'd say, slipping an extra cookie to a child whose mother looked tired. That was Martha. She had nothing, yet she gave everything. The locals loved her. The police officers would wave as they drove by. She was the grandmother everyone wished they had. But not everyone respects kindness. Some see it as weakness. Enter Brad. 20-something, loud, arrogant, and desperate to prove he owned the neighborhood. He and his group of friends spent their days loitering, vandalizing, and looking for easy targets. And there was no easier target than an 82-year-old woman standing alone on a street corner. It started small. Snide comments. "Hey, Grandma, get this trash off our sidewalk," Brad would sneer, kicking the leg of her table as he walked by. Martha would just adjust her glasses and look down. "I have a permit, young man," she would whisper. "Permit?" Brad laughed, blowing smoke in her direction. "Your permit expired when you turned ancient. Go home." Martha didn't tell anyone. She didn't want to be a burden. She didn't call the police because she knew boys like Brad. Calling the cops usually just made things worse. So she endured. She baked her pies, she took her pills, and she prayed they would leave her alone. But bullies don't stop until they are stopped. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the sky turned a bruised purple and the rain began to fall in sheets. A bad day for business. Martha hadn't sold a single pie. Her tin can was empty. Her chest felt tight. She had skipped her medication yesterday to buy flour. She was struggling to fold her table, her arthritic fingers slipping on the wet metal, when a boot slammed onto the table surface. Martha looked up, rain dripping from the brim of her old hat. It was Brad. And he wasn't alone. 3 of his friends stood behind him, hoodies up, phones out, recording. "Packing up so soon, Martha?" Brad grinned. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Please," Martha said, her voice shaking. "I just want to go home. It's raining." "But we're hungry," Brad said, grabbing a fresh cherry pie. He took a bite, chewed dramatically, and then spat it out onto the pavement right next to her shoes. "Ugh, garbage. Just like you." Then he did it. With a violent shove, Brad flipped the entire table. Glass jars of jam shattered. Pies splattered across the dirty, wet concrete. The tin can rolled into the gutter. Martha gasped, reaching out instinctively, but she lost her footing on the slick pavement. She fell hard. Mud covered her coat, the only warm coat she owned. Her glasses skittered away into a puddle. "Look at her," Brad howled, pointing his phone at her. "Look at the little piggy playing in the mud. Go home, you old hag. Nobody wants you here. Your family probably dumped you because you're useless." They laughed, a cruel, hollow sound that echoed off the brick buildings. They kicked the smashed pies toward her and walked away, high-fiving each other like they had just won a war. Martha sat there for a long time. The rain washed away the tears running down her wrinkled cheeks. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, plastic-wrapped object. It wasn't money. It was an old photograph. It was black and white, taken nearly 40 years ago. It showed a younger Martha standing in the kitchen of a reform school, a place for troubled boys that society had given up on. In the photo, she was surrounded by 10 scowling, tough-looking teenagers, but Martha was hugging the biggest, scariest one of them all. She wiped the mud off her phone screen. Her hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from a decision she had avoided for decades. She didn't want to drag them back into this. She wanted them to live peaceful lives. But Brad was right about one thing. She couldn't do this alone anymore. She dialed a number she knew by heart. It rang once. "Hello," a deep, gravelly voice answered, a voice that sounded like grinding stones. "Jax?" Martha's voice broke. It's Mama." On the other end of the line, 300 miles away, the music in a crowded biker clubhouse cut out instantly. Jax, the president of the Iron Saints Motorcycle Club, stood up. The room went silent. "Mama?" Jax asked, his voice softening in a way his men rarely heard. "Why are you crying? Who made you cry?" Martha told him. She didn't want revenge. She just wanted to be safe. But Jax had a different definition of safety. "Pack your bag, boys," Jax said, hanging up the phone. His eyes were cold steel. "We're going for a ride." The next day was bright and sunny, as if the storm had never happened. But the stain of cherries and mud was still on the sidewalk. Brad was back, of course. He was leaning against the brick wall, showing the video of Martha falling in the mud to some girls, trying to impress them. "Yeah, I told her what's what," Brad bragged. "Haven't seen the old witch today, have you? Bet she's halfway to a nursing home." He didn't notice the vibration at first. It started in the coffee cup of a man sitting at the nearby cafe, ripples in the liquid. Then, the windows of the shop behind Brad rattled. Thump, 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 thump. It sounded like a heartbeat, a mechanical gasoline-fueled heartbeat. "What is that?" one of Brad's friends asked, looking around nervously. "Is that thunder?" "Sky's clear," Brad frowned, looking down the long stretch of Main Street. Then they saw it. At first it looked like a black wall moving down the street. As it got closer, the sun glinted off chrome. The roar became deafening. It wasn't a parade. It was an invasion. 50 motorcycles, not weekend warriors. These were hard-tailed choppers, ridden by men who looked like they chewed iron for breakfast. They wore cuts, leather vests with the patch of the Iron Saints on the back, and leading them was a man who looked like a mountain carved out of scar tissue. Jax. Brad's confident smirk vanished. He stepped back, bumping into the wall. "Whoa, cool bikes," he stammered, trying to play it cool. But the bikes didn't pass by. Jax raised a fist. 50 bikes stopped in perfect unison, creating a semicircle that trapped Brad and his two friends against the wall. The engines cut. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise. Jax kicked down his kickstand and dismounted. He was 6'5", wearing dark sunglasses and a beard that reached his chest. He didn't look at Brad. He looked around, scanning the street. "Where is she?" Jax rumbled. From around the corner, holding a small basket, Martha appeared. She looked terrified, not of the bikers, but of the situation. Jax walked right past the trembling bullies. He approached Martha. Brad watched, confused. Was this a robbery? Was the old lady in trouble? "Hey, man," Brad piped up, his voice cracking. "If she owes you money, she's broke. I told her to get lost yesterday." Jax stopped. He turned his head slowly to look at Brad. Then he looked back at Martha. Slowly, dramatically, the giant biker dropped to one knee. He took off his sunglasses. His eyes were red-rimmed. "I'm sorry we're late. Mama," Jax said gently, taking her wrinkled hand in his massive tattooed paw. "Mama?" Brad whispered, the color draining from his face completely. "My boys," Martha smiled, tears welling up. "Look at you. You've gotten so big." Jax stood up. He kissed Martha's forehead, then turned to face Brad. The tenderness was gone. The monster was back. "You." Jax pointed a finger the size of a sausage. "You're the one who made my mother cry? You're the one who spilled her pies?" I didn't know," Brad stammered, backing up until he hit the brick wall. "I thought she was just nobody." Jax stepped closer, towering over him. "Nobody?" Jax growled. "Let me educate you, son. 40 years ago, this woman ran the kitchen at St. Jude's Home for Boys. While the rest of the world called us trash, criminals, and mistakes, she called us sons. She fed us when we were hungry. She bandaged us when we fought. She taught me how to read." Jax leaned in, his nose inches from Brad's. "I didn't have a mother. None of us did. Until her. So when you push her in the mud, you push me. You push us." Behind Jax, 50 men crossed their arms. Some held wrenches. Some just glared. The message was clear. You messed with the wrong family. "I'm sorry! I'm sorry!" Brad was crying now, actual tears running down his face. "I'll leave. I'll never come back." "Leaving is too easy," Jax said calmly. "You destroyed her business. You destroyed her property. Now, you're going to fix it." And that's how the neighborhood witnessed the strangest sight in its history. For the next 4 hours, under the strict supervision of 50 terrifying bikers, Brad and his friends became carpenters. They went to the hardware store, escorted by 2 bikers, and bought the best wood, paint, and screws with their own money. They built Martha a new stand. Not a card table, but a sturdy wooden booth with a roof to protect her from the rain. They painted it bright yellow, Martha's favorite color. They cleaned the sidewalk. They even apologized to every customer who walked by. By sunset, the stand was finished. It was beautiful. Jax handed Brad a broom. "You missed a spot," he said. Brad swept it immediately. Finally, Jax turned to Martha. "Is it to your liking, Mama?" Martha ran her hand over the smooth wood. "It's perfect, Jax, but you didn't have to scare them so bad." Jax grinned. "We didn't hurt 'em, Mama. We just motivated them." Before they left, Jax handed Martha a thick envelope. "Collection from the boys," he said, "for the medicine, and for the pies we're about to eat." Martha tried to refuse, but Jax insisted. "Buy yourself a warm coat, Mama." That evening, the Iron Saints bought every single pie Martha could bake. They sat on the curb, eating apple and cherry pies, laughing with the woman who raised them when no one else would. As for Brad, he still walks by that corner sometimes. But now, he tips his hat. He knows that the sweet old lady selling pies has an army on speed dial. Never judge a book by its cover, and never, ever underestimate the power of kindness. You never know who is watching, and you never know who is protected. If this story warmed your heart, share it with someone you love. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove karma is real. Thanks for watching.